Hello, my name is Jessica Hunt, and this is my higher level presentation for IB Film Studies. Today I will be discussing the 1930s film The Night of the Hunter, directed by Charles Laughton. The director Charles Laughton only ever directed Night of the Hunter. He never did any film before or after. He began his career as an actor. Additionally, Laughton planned a second film based upon Norman Mailer's novel The Naked and the Dead. However, this was never put into motion due to Night of the Hunter's original rejection, due to it simply being released at the wrong time. At this time, Night of the Hunter was filmed in the Great Depression. It portrays a brutal view upon society. So therefore, when in the time of the Great Depression, audiences wanted to go to the cinema for escapism and to get away from reality, Night of the Hunter was released at the wrong time. Today it's seen as a highly successful film from its era. However, when it was first released, the critical and financial reception of the film was shown to be scorned by critics and shunned by audiences. As this was produced in such a dark era, a dark film like Night of the Hunter was not accepted or wanted by the audience of that time. Due to the original failure of the film's success, Laughton never directed again. The film was not where the USA was heading, nor was it fitting with the expressionist styles of the 1930s. Throughout Night of the Hunter, a key theme that is shown is religion. This is expressed through the character of the preacher. Another theme shown is the nature of childhood. Through the film, we see the children progress as characters and develop within the film through their angelic nature and innocence. We see the theme expressed throughout and how it alters our view of the protagonist, as it causes an emotional link between the storyline and the characters. The Night of the Hunter conforms to the thriller genre by concentrating on the theme of injustice within society, where the wrongdoings of characters are later solved. It shows the battle between the protagonist and the antagonist, where the protagonist restores justice. The director's intention when following the theme of violence, which conforms to the thriller genre, reveals the workings of particular institutions, such as the police, shown in the end scene. Thriller uses music to build suspense and tension, therefore the director's intention throughout The Night of the Hunter will be to show the slow pace of music and low-key lighting upon the antagonist to build the mood of a thriller. This reveals certain characteristics about the antagonist in which the audience become disengaged from him as a character, leading to a build-up of tension between the audience and the antagonist. The visual style of a thriller can alter the mood and what the audience engage with, such as an extreme close-up with the antagonist can reveal their emotions and focus on props surrounding them, in order to aid with the narrative structure. The director's intention to do this would allow the audience to be unaware of certain aspects which could allow suspense and tension to build, leading to the thriller genre. In Night of the Hunter, lighting plays a key aspect within the film, and it also linked to the thriller genre, as lighting is a key part. The point in which the protagonist resolves a situation caused by the antagonist relates to a genre in the thriller. It allows the main character to have a problem and have a chilling scene where it's trying to be resolved. The film expresses the view upon society in an era where the Great Depression is at its peak, and how the film uses expressionist views to focus on greed and sins. The stylistic film shows the antagonist to be a villainous preacher. The high contrasting nature between thriller and horror founded the main rejection for the film. The controversial aspect of black and white cinematography caused upset in a time where watching a film is a form of escapism, so therefore the film was originally rejected by audiences. The film at this time it was produced was critically rejected for its strong religious views, and the Bible Belt having such a strong view on society and politics. It isn't surprising that the film wasn't a success in the central southern area of the United States, where the Christian church dominates overall. So a religious film such as Night of the Hunter, its rejection is unsurprising. Moving on now to binary oppositions, working from Claude Levi-Strauss's idea of binary oppositions to engage the audience. This is used in Night of the Hunter when law versus disorder and individual versus community is used. These oppositions change the course in which the film is based upon, as law versus disorder is used when the antagonist is trying to retrieve the money from the children when they are sleeping in the barn, and how the plot moves on to Mrs. Cooper and her good Bible nature. These oppositions work well as they show the compromising situations that the children are put in to build tension and suspense within the film. The director's intention when doing this will be to allow emotion to form between the audience and characters. The director utilises the general structure within The Night of the Hunter. He has chosen to show this through the protagonist needing the money in which the children are in capacity of, as the preacher follows the children when they run away. It leads to a long chase scene where he finally catches up with them, where he finds a resolution to retrieve the money. The director follows a linear structure, as the audience follows and experiences narrative that is the same as the characters within the film. It allows the audience to know the chronological sequence in which the film is following by allowing the audience to connect with the protagonist. The director has chosen to use omniscient narrative in which the audience know what the protagonist's desires are. This lets the audience connect and relate to the film. The director's intention to use the preacher as a false hero according to Prop's character roles. It's shown when he's around the children. This is portrayed through the use of shot reverse shot and high angles, making the antagonist appear friendly and open. Mid-shots are used to show the openness surrounding the antagonist, linking him to being an open character that you can rely on. However, as the audience, we know that the antagonist is really a dark character which is portrayed through the themes and plot. The Night of the Hunter, when it was originally released, it was thought to be a critical failure of its time, with the economical success being smaller than expected and the critical success being shunned by critics of the time, calling the film scorned by audiences. This may be due to the fact that it was released in the time of the Great Depression, where people wanted to escape reality. The director's intention to use a fast cut between frames allows the pace to increase, which links to the visual represented within the shots. It's fast paced, which allows us to build tension with the two characters and the woman who is chasing them. A shot reverse shot allows the audience to connect with both the protagonist and the antagonist. We see the shot from both points of their view. However, we see them both react towards each other. A fast pace between the shot reverse shot connects to the pace in which the scene is moving and is somehow linked to the emotions of the characters. Therefore, their emotions are shown through the pace and fast and slow cuts within the two shot types. The director's intention to get emotion to the audience by using a long take. Hence, when the antagonist is coming into shot slowly, when he is moving towards the children within the barn, we feel a sense of awkwardness build up because we are the audience and we know where the children are hiding. We want them to escape from the situation. Tension occurs as the antagonist moves closer. This gives us a sense between right and wrong as we see the children's innocence show through with the shot and how the antagonist appears from a murky shadow, creating a dark atmosphere around him. In contrast to shot reverse shot, the use of a reaction shot of the young female protagonist's reaction to the antagonist approaching to the barn is suggestive of her unwillingness to believe that her brother, when he tells her that the preacher is trying to take their father's money. In another scene, we see the protagonist walk towards the antagonist and develop a strong bond between them. However, as the audience, we know we don't want this to happen, so therefore, when we see the young girl's reaction to the preacher, her emotions aren't noticeable. The director's intention when doing this is to cause emotion within the audience to make up for the lack of emotion in the scene, so when this occurs, we feel excited to find out what happens next. The director's intention to use a fast beat within the music creates a direct link to the tension that is being built up, which allows the audience to feel empathy for the children and also wanting them to escape. The fast rhythm that the music is at links to the visual represented within the film, and how it links to the chase scene between Mrs. Cooper and the two protagonists. The rhythm is exaggerated to establish a mood between the audience to allow tension to form. The sound of doors opening is used by the director to create a suspense build-up and alarm the audiences, so that the next scene and shot can create an emotional suspense between the audience and the characters. The use of diegetic sound is used by the director intentionally to form a strong link between the shot we see within the film and the sound we hear as the audience. Overall, the sound bridges the gap between visual and non-visual representation in the film. The contrapuntal sound that follows the chase scene allows the audience to follow the film's sequence easier, as it's parallel to the actual visual. The use of silence when the preacher is following the children to the barn makes the viewer focus on the visual and lessens the distraction from the plotline, which creates tension between the scenes as the silence and long pauses between dialogue links to the genre that is The Night of the Hunter relates to. The use of non-diegetic sound from the piano playing in the background causes an eerie atmosphere to build within the visual. We see this link to the dark overview of the barn and how the preacher walks into the shot slowly. This creates the audience to be nervous and awaiting suspense for what will happen next. As opposed to the children in the scene, a lighter atmosphere surrounds them, with more key lighting around them, which makes us believe the audience that they are innocent and are being mistreated by the preacher. The sound that plays when the children are in the scene is much more casual and informal and less focused on the danger that is surrounding them. The director's intention when using a mid to long shot of the children walking along the river shows how frantic the pace in which the film is moving at, and also links the upbeat tempo of the music at this point. This distances us from the two characters, which allows us to focus on other characters. For example, the director's intention when using a long shot of the characters distances us from the protagonist and the situation that they are in, and how we are positioned to view the shot type as if we were looking at it through a window when they are sat in the barn. This allows us to focus on the setting and other factors affecting their situation, for instance, the factors of mise-en-scène. When using the point of view shot, the antagonist looking over the children, it creates an eerie atmosphere within the shot, which leads to the build-up of tension and suspense, which allows the audience to derive more from the scene. From this shot, we get to see the reaction of the two children, how they act towards the antagonist. When the preacher comes into shot when approaching the barn, the camera remains in the same position, and that means the camera pan isn't used. This is useful as we get to see a shadow form behind the preacher. This alerts the children. As the camera doesn't follow the preacher and remains in the same position, we get to see a sense of how monotonous and drooling this is for the preacher. We get a feeling that he wants to give up. The director did this to balance the love-hate situation surrounding the preacher and to show his kinder side. Mrs. Cooper's costume, being bright and casual, relates to her friendly behaviour and personality. It makes her character appear warm and open towards the children. It symbolises her as a beam of hope that welcomes the children into her home. The director's intention to use lighting in the scene where the central character walks towards the barn where the children are sleeping, it shows the children to have a soft light focused upon them, which represents their innocence and angelic behaviour, which contrasts the antagonist being shown as a silhouette with no key lighting. This symbolises his dark personality, which builds tension as he walks out of shot. The director's intention to use the barn as a focus setting represents the loneliness of the children and how they are completely alone apart from the animals, which compares to how they have nobody they can rely on, as even their mother has died, and now they are surrounded by nothing which cannot help them in any way. The body language of the antagonist shows that the director's intention was to show how protective he is over his sister and the relationship between them, as he is sat in such a manner that makes us feel like he's older than he is. As he is sat upright, we feel like he has nothing to hide as a character. His stance is suggestive of loneliness and sadness, which builds tension between the male protagonist and the antagonist himself. When the preacher comes into shot when coming towards the barn, the lighting shows the preacher to have half of him to be lit with key lighting and the remaining to be left with no lighting. This creates a large shadow on his face, which links to the love-hate that is tattooed on his hands. The shadow that surrounds the preacher links to the darkness of his life and the negative atmosphere that surrounds him, and the overall dark persona of him as the preacher. The preacher's MVC is portrayed to be unwelcoming and harsh, and even the facial features of the preacher are blunt, and this is highlighted when the spotlighting is used to cast shadows on his face. Throughout the film, the preacher's facial expression is stern, and this is suggestive of his personality, and even though he is the acting father of the children, we never see him show any love for them through his facial expressions. This is contradicting of him having love tattooed on his knuckles. However, the position of the tattoos is suggestive of him being angry and ready to fight with his fists clenched. So when the director's intention when doing this is suggestive of the fact that the preacher is willing to do anything to get the money from the children, even if it means harming them within that process. David Gritton gave a critical review on the film, calling its original reviews negative. He said that it was originally shunned by audiences and scorned by most critics. This is suggestive of the fact that Night of the Hunter was in the wrong era, where the audience were not prepared for the darkness within the film itself. He follows by saying it's now a critically acclaimed masterpiece of its time, considering it's the only film Lawton ever directed, which he finds remarkable considering its now success. Overall, the film was originally shunned by audiences and critics, but is now critically acclaimed from its time, where audience can relate and watch with enjoyment. However, the film's successfulness may have been greater if produced in a different era, where people weren't looking for escape from reality in a dark period. The film was simply released before its time, if in the wrong timescale. Additionally, it will remain a successful film from its era as its success keeps on rising.